Welcome back to the Swiss campaign of Bridge, where last time we were able to win our air war with the Entente to some extent by using UFOs from the future, and then we were able to win the First World War when a few things actually managed to happen. Things have developed though. We're now in the Second First World War. The war's still just kind of happening, but it's all a little bit different in various ways. The biggest difference is that Spain is absolutely annihilating everybody, taking over France as part of the Comintern. The new war has the Comintern on our side, which means it's actually going to be a lot easier than the First World War, simply because Spain is still here, getting France out of the way. It's going to be easier for us at least. We have a chance here to shorten our border. And I'm progressing towards doing something very special. Not only have I set up the front line system, so my troops will follow the advance of our allies, I'm actually actively helping on the front line for a simple reason. The enemy territory here is so narrow, if we just push them back a little bit, we can completely close out a front and make defending here way easier, because we're going to very soon be surrounded by people who are on our side in the war, and at last Switzerland will be safe once again. Not that it was particularly unsafe before. So we do actually make some attacks. Incredible gameplay. I had to click on tiles that weren't mine, and we are able to win the battles we take part in, mainly due to the fact the enemy are being attacked from all sides all the time. And with that, Italy and France are going to be swept away from Switzerland. It's now Germany and Spain. They're both on our side, although they're both in different factions, so there's still some tension here on the old Western Front. Well, for us, we can sit back, we can build things, our divisions can chill for a bit. That's just Switzerland, baby. We're back to the no gameplay challenge run. I took a look around to see what was going on in the First World War. Well, there's still some random fighting in the Balkans. Looks like Luxembourg is holding out strong, absolutely surrounded, but it's still not going down. Well, that's Luxembourg for you. As for us, our defences are just going to get stronger the longer we sit here, so this is all good. Mexico is at it once again against the United States for the second time in recent memory. Mexico is taking over most of North America, aided quite a lot by the fact that something like 14 million American troops are currently lying in shallow graves in the mountains of Switzerland. So I doubt they have much manpower left and can't put up much resistance to those attacks. All very good. Here's me actually helping the war, slightly indirectly. I decided to send out our UFO fighters to just randomly intervene in these other theatres. So here we can easily help our side get air superiority in Greece and some other places as well. Not really any point in doing this, it won't make a difference, but we're down to such a small amount of remaining gameplay that having the planes go out somewhere is really the last thing I can do without just shutting the game off. My goal now is to actually encourage this war to end, because it's so one-sided. We might be able to get through this and have the First World War end, and then see what the world looks like after that. Mexico is doing its thing. It's going to take all of it. I think they're doing better than last time. Good job to them. And as mentioned, we're just going to sort of help out with planes. I'm using bombers now. We don't have alien bombers, so it's just our terrible actual bombers. And they're doing something. Well, the numbers there suggesting they're doing some damage to something. Doesn't tell you what they're damaging. Doesn't even really tell you how much. We've defeated 4. And that's all you need to know, I suppose. Now, as we sit around waiting to win this easy, one-sided war, very comfortable, well, our allies are at it again. I almost didn't read that pop-up that just shot past. I think it kind of sunk in after a second. I was like, wait a minute, what did that say? And then decided to pause and start sending all of my planes back to Europe, because there's some trouble over here. Germany decided to declare war on Russia. This means this war is now a three-way. We're at war with the remains of the Entente, or the Netherlandish Illuminati, and the Comintern, and it just so happens that the weird distribution of territory here means that the Comintern forces completely surround Switzerland, or not quite actually. We've got a little channel out to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. We're in a really weird situation that's kind of bad for us, and now our allies are trying to get us in on the deal. We actually lose stability if we join this war, because I have a non-aggression pact with Spain. Well, I decided to put this decision off for a bit and collect my thoughts in Switzerland. At the very least, we need to man the relevant front lines. So we end up with this situation, and then I thought, well, let's do it. It's actually gotten worse since the initial decision point because we are now 100% surrounded by the enemy. Time to join this war and see what happens, I suppose. So we're in. We actually don't take the stability hit that it was advertising, or at least the hit doesn't take us below 100%. So we're super stable, still got that 100% war support as well. We're all up for this apparently. So here we go. Time for the third First World War, perhaps. It's going to be at least along very similar lines. Perhaps this really is the Second World War coming in now. It's the Comintern versus the Central Powers. We're both kind of fascist. The Comintern is fascist in this timeline, just to confuse matters. Well, I suppose we have to decide who's got the best kind of fascism, because after all, we can't all be the master race. That's the issue with fascism in general, really. Or an issue, I should say. There have been a few issues with fascism in the past. Well, you can check it on Wikipedia if you want to know more about that. Looks like our situation is a little bit bad overall, because while we're fighting successfully all over the place, our allies aren't in our pocket, so it's mostly just us defending. We don't have that many troops, and the enemy are going to be able to out-organize us. Our casualties are extremely low in comparison to the enemy. We're fighting very efficiently, but the organization thing will come into play. Our men will get bored of killing the enemy continuously, and they will fall back after a while as a result. We need more troops to decisively win these fights, and our production is going to be out the window because we now have absolutely no trade network whatsoever, being entirely surrounded. Luckily, the way the game works with supplies is that all your supplies are magically generated inside your own capital. So we're fine for supplies to the troops, we just can't manufacture any more gear, or at least we can't manufacture anything particularly fast. I think we're not entirely defending our fortified line here, so we can improve the results of these battles a bit by moving backwards, especially here in this part where it's going badly. I think there we were in some occupied territory. Let's get back into the mountains and back into our trenches, and then just kind of hope they can't crush us. Hopefully we have the numbers to hold on against this siege from all directions. I eventually work out where the good territory to defend is. Need to fall back further than I thought actually. But falling back is easier said than done because we're constantly involved in battle, so we can't always get our guys off the danger tiles where we're taking more casualties. Inconvenient. Looks like I even started thinking there about building fortifications underneath the battle to just deal with it. I don't think you're allowed to do that. The idea was there though. Eventually I do manage to get out of the fight / lose the fight, so we'll move back to better positions. We've already lost 5,000 troops. That's not what we want to see. We want to be losing something in the realm of 0 if possible. We have defeated over 100,000 enemies, so a decent enough trade, but it's certainly not the trading we're used to. It doesn't matter so much because we have loads of reserves available now, thanks to everybody going a little bit crazy over the Swiss Master Race thing, but it's still annoying. I want to get out of these battlefields and not fight here. I actually did reinforce that one particular tile to try and hold it for longer for some reason. But soon enough we're back where we need to be. And this causes the enemy to stop fighting us. Once they see that you have really high level fortifications, they're unlikely to come at you unless they've got something equally powerful on their side to attack with. So this just kind of guarantees our survival really. We can sit here. The AI won't want to attack our fortified lines for now, so we're fine. We can also participate in the air war. The enemy's planes were mostly in a different theatre in Germany, so our theatre is pretty clear. We're not being bombed. It's generally much nicer than the previous war. There are loads of enemy things, they're just bombing somebody else for once. Great news. And there's another much needed stack of fresh divisions just trained to reinforce our positions. Since some of our places are very thinly held, that'll make things a bit safer. The other thing to go for right here is to re-secure our supply lines outside to the Allies. And that started to happen on its own really, there on the right. Austria-Hungary makes a minor breakthrough that actually connects us there in this tiny strip of land. And we're even going to help out by expanding it, actually making some attacks, another rare event to see for our forces. to make that a bit more substantial. This does benefit us quite a lot, because it means not only can we trade for resources, but our allies will send in a bunch of stuff to fill our pocket because it's part of the front line, and our security will ramp up dramatically. So with that, utter stability will return. We will have lost quite a few troops making those attacks, I imagine. We also take out an enemy airbase in that area, so that one tile I took there in particular was useful. In the end, it's about 12,000 troops lost in this scrappy early fighting. We've only killed, well, less than 200,000 enemies. Disgraceful trading. Now it's going to descend down to essentially a 0-for-0 trade, as we're not going to attack the enemy, well, our allies will, but we specifically won't, and the enemy are unlikely to try to attack us because we're now so heavily entrenched. If they do attack, they'll just stop the battle immediately due to their organization disappearing. That's that then. We can sit back and do nothing. We've reached the golden stage of the campaign, but it's nothing where I can still watch some fighting happening and cheer on our side or something. We've got some useful production to be getting on with. The march of time has gone forwards. We've got new artillery guns and new rifles for the men. We've reached the point when we can now stop distinguishing between heavy and light artillery, so the upgrades go down into a single artillery tree. The thing is, it's not that much better, so I think I ended up sticking with the World War I style heavy artillery for a while. Another thing we can change is infantry into re-equipped infantry. I guess this represents moving from World War I style to World War II style infantry units. You get slightly higher stats, so I think I did take that in the end, sometimes at least. The war seems to go well for us. Our allies push forwards and the front line turns into a World War I-like scenario once again. And our front line personally is shortened so much that I had all these units spare. So I actually sent them out to do a very tiny amount of fighting on the front line. I tried to occupy this city. I wanted to push north to help out with that attack going on, but our offensive plan had us attacking everywhere but north. I don't really know how that offensive plan system works still. Eventually we make the attack we want. The stat differential won't be so good anymore. It hardly looks like we are the Übermensch at all, so we'll have to keep this quiet. But we are going to take that random tile near Strasbourg and pretend that we helped. For the most part though, I did not help. Here's a moment I know some of you have been waiting for. Here's when I remembered the field marshal system, so I promoted somebody, one of our good generals, to be a field marshal and can then assign them to be the overall leader of our troops. I think you get some kind of buff for doing this. Maybe it's not immediately obvious. I think their rank might transmit some stats down to the troops in some way. That's got to be a good thing, not that it's going to make any difference right now because the troops are doing absolutely nothing. The Air Force though is still hard at work because we can help out with the offensive across Western Europe, and that offensive goes surprisingly well. Look at that, Spain got completely annihilated by Austria-Hungary in the end, so that's that. And looks like the Entente forces, or the Netherlandish forces from France up there, in France, are gradually being beaten back as well. We're officially winning both of the wars. We're taking down these enemy alliances all over the world, although actually not all over the world, because the Americans are making a comeback. They're being helped by Britain, I think, and Canada too. Something's going on over here, and Mexico are starting to lose all that territory they secured. The dream is dying. Looks like they're outnumbered. They might even be outgunned as well, since the United States probably has tons of industrial capacity they can use from somewhere. Maybe some imperial bits that I don't even know about. The Russian Civil War is still going on. Looks like neither side's really fighting each other very much, and they both have the same name, which adds to the confusion. Maybe they don't know which side they're on. We won't worry about that. France, which made a brief comeback, is now disappearing again to the Central Powers. That's all looking good. And then the masterminds of this whole First World War, the Netherlandians, they're getting conquered next, and our Air Force is helping out. They do have some big bits of territory out in Southeast Asia and stuff, so they can still make a comeback, but this seems like a nice propaganda victory to take out the supposed leading faction of the faction, or the leading nation in the faction, I should say. As for Switzerland, well, we're just getting more and more fortified. We're building the wall. No one's ever going to do anything to us at this rate, so that's all well and good. The USA though is back, Canada too, Mexico got absolutely annihilated over there. That's going to set our war effort back a bit. There's also a big war between China and the Russian Empire version of the Soviets over in the Far East. I can't remember which side we want to win, it's a bit complicated. Since we're now so far from the action, I thought maybe we can still stir up some trouble with the old coup system. The thing about this is, building political support and staging a coup is much harder in this mod. It costs way more political power. This means you can't constantly be plotting things in other countries, and in fact it might cost the max political power you can have, which is what we have right now, to get anywhere close to spreading your philosophy somewhere else. So while I wanted to try and overthrow the United States, realistically that's not going to happen here. All that said, we are still going to see some major changes in the world. As a result of the return of the aliens, I decided to start changing the world situation because I wanted to give myself a little bit of a test. I wanted to find out just how much of a master race we've really become, and the aliens are going to be on my side for that. To find out what any of this means, why don't you join me in the next part?